フリーダムチョイスじゃなくて何個かアイテムという必要ない違う。
全体それみたいなもので、なんかこれする
into a bathroom so we can write a few more words. Please wait. Right, welcome to round one of mini tournament between IFA and Kyushu University. The motion is discussed the parents should encourage their children to be vegetarians. On the side of the women, we have team one. On the side of position, we have team two. Very straightforward in terms of number. Good luck to all 6 speakers, and without any further ado, I invite the first speaker.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very proud of the Prime Minister of this motion. First thing I will do is to talk about the status quo. So, we are living in a society that have a lot of environmental issues. So, first one is about increasing meat consumption. Why this is bad to Earth? Because in the process of making meat, that gives a lot of damage to Earth. So that can contaminate air and water, and in the process of making meat, a lot of forest is disappearing. So meat consumption is giving a lot of damage to Earth. And the second part is, compared to the past, this society has a lot of food. So people are living in abundant food. So people are suffering from obesity-related diseases, or like cancer and diabetes and other things. So what is government role? Government have to address environmental issue, because environmental issue can be addressed by only one country, because this damage is very broad. So, and this action in country lead to other countries' consequence. So we need to address this issue, by only one person. So government should address this issue issue, not by one person. And government have another obligation is that they have obligation is that government have to lead their people to live a healthy life, and government have to provide a better place for people's living. So I think there is government role. And what is our goal? We want to encourage people to be vegetarian, which means we want to decrease the consumption of meat. So we thought this act will give more benefit to Earth. And the one other thing is we want to lower the risks of from diseases, and that is another goal. And we're not saying we will force people to be vegetarian, but we are saying encouraging people to think about being vegetarian. That is another thing. And the important thing about it is we are saying that being vegetarian will be instructed through family, not school. Why family? Because family is kind of first educational institute to instruct kids effectively rather than school. And parents make the food for kids, and parents give proper nutrition for kids. So we thought family is the most effective educational institution to give instruction to kids. And now I'm going to define the motion. So the first thing is we will define this house as already developed country, which has a lot of food, doesn't lack food nutrition. So we're defining it that way. And we will say to encourage, not force their people to be vegetarian. We are encouraging. Means we will give another way of eating food in a healthy way. And the third one is the children, which means family will give and will instruct the children. That can be, like I said before, first educational institution to instruct in a very effective way, and children will feel parents' instruction is effective, affectional. They feel the way. So we think family will be very effective way to instruct and to raise their children. And last one is what kind of vegetarian? So we will define it as selective vegetarian. We will not teach children you can never eat meat, you have to only eat meat. But we are saying that you can be vegetarian, which means sometimes you can meat very small times, like considering children is on a way of growth, so government will encourage parents to their kids to be selective vegetarian. So that is another our defining. And so, like I said before, we are expecting two goals to better future. First one is about environmental problem, and the second one is like for their kids' health. So, like I said before, we define the motion. It happens in already developed country, and in developed country, many children got diseases from abundant food, like abundant meat. So in developed country, parents will instruct their kids to have better healthy diet. So we will expect that. And second one is, like I said before, this house will expect reduction in consumption of meat will give better consequence to our ecosystem. Thank you.
Right, I thank the Prime Minister for the remark. We now the negative by inviting the European speaker.
Really happy to propose the last time we met 6 months ago. Happy to meet you. The first debate is the other side, the second to constructing our logics about the preferences. What is the futures of the vegetarians? It is not very different from the religion, very different from the other kinds of very important ideas, strategy, ideology. Vegetarian is just simple preferences. The first debate is the other side. Of course, about the environment, we really much care about the environment, about these societies. But how should we use the chemical bills to grow up, to grow crops, to grow rice? It is not, even we become vegetarians, we must destroy the environment. So about why it is too much care about the environment, to protecting the environment, you should explain the causes, the root causes. We not listen about these reasons. The second is that about always said, parents, even if we encourage you defines, don't force, don't make people's children must become vegetarian. But you already said the parents is main main stakeholders to educate children. Means children must define. Children is very early childhood. Means very hard stages, very early childhood stages. Children very much influenced upon parents. Even if only parents just say, oh, you have better become a vegetarian, they are very much influenced upon the children because children believes to their parents, we must become children. It is difficult to limit the influence upon the parents. We must care much about the futures of young-aged children. Yes.
So, in your opinion, if some kind of religion restricts some kind of behavior, you believe that religion should be banned?
No, our side idea is that we define that to become vegetarian is only preferences, very much different from the other kinds of sensitive ideas about the religions. So we explained about this side and the influence upon the difference between preferences and the ideologies or other strict ideas, naive, sensitive ideas. Even we take this motion, don't take this motion, it's not very much influenced upon because this is just preferences. Parents have, of course, have a rule as a parents. Parents have the right and duty to grow up children. Means parents educate, parents can educate, parents should educate children. But preferences is totally kind of the freedom of choice. So even the parents have better not to care much about the invade the preferences about the children. the rule, what is the rule of the parents? To feed children to survive in the strict society. As they grow up, if the parents don't have many kinds of ideas about this kind of the futures of food, it is difficult to respect other ideas. It is difficult to become friends who likes meetings, who likes not be vegetarians. It is difficult to construct a good relationship about the person's colleagues, his working place in the school district, who has different preferences. How can they collaborate? How can they work together? How can they live comfortably? The main aim for parents is to children to become mature and grown up, to respect other ideas. Even if we not to take these motions, it is not hard compared to the harm. It is not a need to compare to the harm. It is not so hard not to be vegetarians, not to bullies, because, for example, compared to the cases, if the Muslim countries, even if became Buddhist, it is very hard because of they are not recognized as the strange religion believers. Compared to this strict case, okay, there's more. In the these cases, it is no necessity to take this motion. And we already explained not so hard even if we not take these motions. Compared to the focus to the preferences of the motions to become vegetarians, parents have better not to force the children to take these motions compared to children become more and more mature and grown person. That is why we need not to take this motion. Thank you.
Right, I thank the leader of the petition. We now move on to second speakers by inviting the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'll extend to this Prime Minister's argument and then extend our argument. And I'll show you next argument. And all rebuttals are integrate our next argument. And firstly, extend our Prime Minister's argument. First, and Prime Minister successfully told you what government should do and how increasing meat consumption is harmful to today's environment. And this is our first argument. And this means so the obligation of citizen is decreasing meat consumption. So it means, so in this society, increasing meat consumption is so harmful situation, and government and also as a citizen we have to tackle such kind of problematic situation. And in your opinion, it is true that parental right or parental obligation is also important, but parental is also citizen, and the obligation of citizen is more important than the obligation of parent. Because please imagine the case of the money is so necessity case. In such case, even if parents strongly believe that they have to get a lot of money and they have to use a lot of money to grow up their children, parents cannot do tax evasion, or parents cannot rob other people's money. So it means parents have to keep the law or have to do the obligation as a citizen. So this example successfully shows that the obligation as a citizen is more important than the obligation of parents. So this is why I believe that even if today's opposition side argument is so important, our argument is more important because tackling to this kind of problem is so important thing as a citizen. And moreover, citizen obligation is so important because the purpose of existing state or country is that to protect ourselves. people make country to protect ourselves, and even now the country can protect ourselves. So we have to protect the rules, or we have to do the obligation of citizen or so on. So this is why we believe that as a citizen we have to tackle to solve this kind of problem. And let's move on our next argument. And this argument includes rebuttals. And firstly, we couldn't understand why today's oppositional size argument is so unique. Is not different from the case of strict Buddhist or religion case or so on. So even the case of strict Buddhists, they have to become Buddhist, and they said they don't ban or they don't restrict any kind of religion case, but the argument is contradictory, because, as I said, in the case of strict Buddhists, their children have to become vegetarian, and we couldn't understand why this case can be allowed and why this motion cannot be allowed. And moreover, they said by taking this motion, this kind of children cannot get along with other people. But if this motion will be taken in generally, all people will become vegetarian, and such kind of problem will not be occurred. And moreover, from the viewpoint of parents, we believe that taking this motion is so profitable. Firstly, in the current situation, in your opinion, eating meat is so bad, custom was so bad, eating habit. Firstly, in the future, the price of meat will be dramatically increased, because the population will be increased, and the demand for meat will be increased, and moreover, however, the climate will be changed. So now the meat is mainly provided in the US or in the Australia and so on. But if such countries' climate will be changed, we cannot keep today's amount of providing, or even in some cases the providing of the meat will be decreased because of the climate change. And moreover, even now in the current situation, cow or pigs eat soybean or wheat or so on, and such crops mainly grown in the Ukraine or China or so on. And if such countries' climate will be changed, we can't provide such feed enough. And both two reasons, in the future the price of meat will be increased. And secondly, eating meat is so unhealthy. So please imagine the meat dish. Such dish is so salty, or such dishes include so too much oil or so. So such situation is so bad for our health. And however, by taking this motion, such problem will be solved, because firstly, as today's oppositional size also told you that by taking this motion, many people believe that eating vegetarian is good, and they believe that their eating habit is mainly vegetable, or rice is their main food, and they believe that eating vegetable is so good. And mainly eating vegetable is so good for them, because firstly, eating vegetable is healthy. As I said, eating dish is so salty, or it includes so much oil, but vegetable dish is not so awful situation, and vegetable dish is so good for our health. Moreover, as I said, vegetable is much more cheaper. And let's move on why our contextualization is so valid. Firstly, please imagine the case of developing country. In such country, people cannot choose they become vegetarian or not. So today's motion context is parents can choose their children become vegetarian, or their children cannot become vegetarian, and so on. So this is why we believe that in today's context there are enough food, and they can choose their children's future. And in such situation, as I said, in such situation it is a developed country, and in such situation, as I said, becoming vegetarian is good for their children, so parents should encourage and because it is good for their children, and this encouragement it can be justifiable from the viewpoint of parental right. So this is why we support this motion. Thank you.
Right, I thank the Prime Minister for the remark. Now we will take the leader's opposition to continue the case without opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will start by rebutting any points made by the government side. First, we said that their status quo is that we have environmental issues that are fatal to our environment these days. There are increased meat consumption, and it's polluting our environment and stuff. However, I think the government should first start by sorting their priorities first, because it sounds like they're putting the burdens on our future generation rather than trying to solve it in this generation. I want to ask you if the burden is really of the children to become a vegetarian to prevent further destruction. It's not too late for the children to become vegetarian when they grow up, after they can make mature thoughts and after they are physically and mentally mature enough. Status quo is that not many parents themselves are vegetarians, so the government should be focusing on making the parents vegetarian first, educate them, and make the social infrastructure ready for our children to become vegetarian in a healthy way. And after that, the parents will be able to have this chance to give children their choices that they can make from diverse other choices rather than just becoming a vegetarian. And the government side came up with the fact that we have to protect ourselves by becoming vegetarians, and that is why our country should be involved in this motion. However, I think our team also believes that in long term, we agree to the government side's point of view. However, in short term, we shouldn't put heavy burden on our future generation, our children's nutrition problems for this, our generation's problem. And also the Deputy Prime Minister came up with the fact that eating vegetable is good in a healthy way and in the taste way. However, the fact that the vegetarianism is healthy doesn't mean that we should only eat vegetables. We can also combine meat and vegetable and be healthy. And the fact that the vegetable can taste good, I think this is the matter of preference, as our leader of opposition already mentioned. I want to go on with emphasizing what the leader of opposition already mentioned. The vegetarianism is not an ideology, but it's a problem of preference. I would like to challenge the government side to come up with one example where a family killed their family members because they are not a vegetarian or they are vegetarian. Because in the case of ideology where which includes like communism or Christianity, there are victims who are killed because they are not in this particular religion or particular ideology. That is why we challenge the government side to come up with the fact that becoming a vegetarian is not different from the ideology. Going on to my new argument, I want to strongly emphasize the fact that the children have a lot of tendency to believe what their parents say. It doesn't have to be really logical, it doesn't have to be convincing. If the parents say something, children have their tendency to believe it. We do all thought of our fathers as superheroes like Superman, or our mothers as like Wonder Woman or something. And this is where I think the freedom of choice can come up as a matter to our side.
POI.
Later, please. The freedom of choice is an important topic for everybody, even if it's regarding the children. If they are forced to become a vegetarian when they're young, it's probably against their will, and you can't expect backlash from them, because my parents had me never eat this snack when I was young, but when I grew up and had my freedom of choice, I just went to supermarkets and bought snacks only and had only snacks. And I think this is pretty much the case where we can expect from being vegetarian in a forced way. Even if they chose to do so when they were young, I think it wasn't their real choice because they are not mature enough to make a right decision because they don't have this information from their parents if their parents just encourage them to be vegetarians. Pure later. So I think there will be practical harm if parents encourage their children to be vegetarians. And one important fact is that our children have going through this huge amount of growth when they're in a young childhood period. Thinking back to our childhood, we grew up like 10 centimeters a year and we gained like 10 kilos a year. If we didn't have this nutritious enough diet, then this wouldn't be able to happen to you. And we cannot deny the fact that the meat is the very fundamental and most abundant resource for the proteins, vitamins, and calcium where we can find it most easily. And the government side came up with the fact that vegetarianism can be a cheaper choice for people, but however, I don't know about the Japan status quo, but in Korea, if you want to have some vegetarian diet, you have to expect like paying 2,000 yen per a meal. But if you go to the fast food market, you just can pay like 500 yen for a nice decent dish. And if you are a vegetarian, if you're vegetarian, it can have this possibility of getting a less strong immune system, which will cause huge effect when you become old. And I think this should be the part where children should make, not the parents' part. And we should remember why we need to be vegetarians, as the government side pointed out. It's for our health, it's for our environment, and this doesn't mean that we should burden it to risking our children's health. Therefore, we are proud to oppose.
Right, I thank the deputy leader of the opposition. We now move on to speeches, but inviting government to
Thank you, Chairperson. And I'll talk about some today's points in debate. First, opposition side mainly talk about preferences, and yes, first, yes, they said parents' power is very strong and for their children, so children cannot choose their own option with their own preferences. But yes, it is true to some extent. Yes, but when children is very small, they tend to follow what their parents said. But when they grew up, they they are affected affected by other actors, for example, their friends or their teachers or so on. So in such situation, children can judge from many opinions. Of course, their parents' opinion and others' opinion, and children can judge which is better for themselves or which is better for their our future and environment. So their situation about preferences is not so serious, we think. And also, even if as they said, even if this motion limit preferences, we think our model has enough justification for it, because by encouraging vegetarians, as my teammates said, it has many benefits for both environment and children's health. So and in such situation, the government can invade parental preferences. So, and also the leaders of opposition said being a vegetarian is not necessary for unlike other example, but we don't think so, because yes, as I said, it is many repetitions, and so yes, and I'll move on to the next point about environment. Yes, they said even if people don't eat meat, crops have the same. Crops also have some problems, for example, chemical materials or so on. But yes, it is true. But we think to some extent, in our paradigm, people can reduce crop or deforestation also, because cow or other animals in farms eat a lot of crops, more crops than people. So compared with how much the amount of crops humans eat, it is very big. So we think it is not. It has some exact effect on environment, and also and second speaker said we should make effort in this generation rather than next generation. Yes, we think this generation's effort is important, but we think it is not reason why they deny next generation's effort. Yes, next generation effort, we think is also we think next generation's effort is important, and we think today's our plan has big effects on about environment, and considering today's situation. So, and in short, it is today's our model has some effects on environmental issues, and last, in this way, children, our models has no but effect on for example on nutrition and so on, and my teammates said, rather a plan has good effect for children about nutrition, and also it surely make good effect on environmental issues. So we should propose this motion. Thank you.
Right, I thank Government Whip. In order to conclude this round, I will conclude the constructive cases. I invite the opposition whip.
Okay, so thank you, Chair. So as opposition, I'd like to talk about mainly two things. Firstly, that I'd like to break down the main cases coming from the government side. So why? I'd like to show that. So why such kind of I'd like to show that why such kind of behavior is not such kind of root cause of such kind of social problem. So which the government side try to raise and try to solve. So then I'd like to show that. So why in terms of protecting protecting children's freedom choices, so why protecting the preferences is much more important than such kind of solving such kind of problem in the solving such the current main problem in the society in the first place. So all that is included in my speech. So okay, let's move on first point. So today's government side, the main logic is here. So unless such kind of environmental issue and health issue is much more serious, so for this reason, so parents and the government can bind even the children's preferences in the first place. So it is completely different. It doesn't. It is not completely true. So firstly, about the environmental issues. So today's government side try to show that. So if we take this motion and the parents can successfully encourage children to change their eating behavior, so we can to some extent improve such kind of environmental issue. So we don't think so. So the analysis here. So firstly, they completely fail to show that. So why such kind of eater habitat is so heavy root cause of the current environmental problem in the first place. So today's government side defines that the target is that children in the developed country. So but we don't understand that. So why does that just kind of changing target? Why does the changing the eating behavior of the target is so much effective to solve this problem? Why that? So because we have so many problems or so many causes of the current environment problem. So for example, the still developing countries like China or India still emit still increasing the number of factories, or so still continue to emit so much of the CO, so greenhouse gases, or something like that. So they completely fail to show us. So how we can prioritize some other the problem of eating behavior, so rather than other causes of the environmental problem in the first place. So for this reason, so if we try to tackle about the environmental problem, so we can do any kind of the alternative plan. So for example, we make a international treaty so to limit the amount of the emission of CO2, or we make we'll continue, we'll control, do make some system or we'll make some regulation in the law so to control and encourage some kind of the new technology so to decrease the number of greenhouse gas and to make a more eco-friendly system or something like that. So no, thank you. So secondly, so even if right the government side say that, so it is social problem, so which have to solve. So in right now, so we don't understand why this way is why it should be this way. So because so if this is so much serious problem, so government can force every kind of citizen so to change their into behavior. So more simply say, so government can cover all the meat consumption or the meat consumption for all kinds of the citizens in such kind of developed country in the first place. So this is more completely more effective than because we are to more we can guarantee more kinds of more increased number of the people who will abandon to eat meat. So it is much more effective than so that today's government side in the first place. For this reason, from the perspective of the environmental issue, this kind of motion doesn't have any kind of impact. So by taking this motion in the first place, no thank you. So secondly, that about the health issues. So two analyses here. Firstly, so this is the we also understand that. So why is it the most root cause of the current health problem? Because also in this area, so we have many kinds of the other kinds of the causes, root causes. So for example, the way of working or no thank you. They way to spend your time or something like that. So in such a case, so some kind of disease or something like that. So even in this area, so we don't understand why such kind of eating behavior is so much root causes in the first place. So second reason, so even if this is so much serious problem, so we can also say that if this problem is so much serious, we can also ban such kind of meat consumption. We can also force it other countries. We can also force it to change other vegetarian in the first place. For this kind of reason, today's government said the main logic can be completely broken down. So by showing that some kind of existing some other root causes or such kind of problem in the first place. Yes?
We just justify today's motion. We don't say that our taking this motion is only solvency to solve such kind of motion. Why just showing an alternative way is your reason to oppose today's motion?
Because today you frame that, so such kind of problem is so much problematic that so you should because such kind of problem is the subject. So we have to change it right now as a perspective of the country in the first place. For this reason, so you try to show that so you country so have to make parents to encourage children to be vegetarian. So for this reason, you are already treated that so such kind of the eat behavior is something so much important in the first place. So then so briefly show that what our side is superior. So we already realize that such kind of vegetarian is just kind of preference that this is not the area of the parental right. It shouldn't be interfered but just parent in the first place. For this kind of reason, so even if the benefit of the vegetarian subsistence coming from the government side, so such kind of benefit should be just kind of a criteria for the children to judge that so without that they will in the future they will be become so vegetarians or not. For this kind of reason, we are happy to oppose this motion. Thank you for listening.
Right, I thank the opposition with for remarks. We now move to reply speeches by inviting government opposition to reply.
happy to report. So first, we totally succeed about to focus about the features of this vegetarianism in these motions. So we totally succeed to the difference between the ideologies and the preferences. We never find the vegetarian terrorists. The second, compared to the harm in this context, compared to the harm and merits about the justifications, the other side is said about the environmental issues, about the children's health. It is need to take this motion, but about the environment, even to take this motion, everyone becomes vegetarians. How should we use a lot of agricultural chemicals to grow up rices and grow grasses? So it is not so enough reasons about to take these motions about the environmental issues. To take this motion or not, we must destroy the environment. It is very difficult topic issues. So we don't much care much about the focus on environment. The second about the health. It is difficult to prove the scientific reasons about the health. It is good to our health to become vegetarians. Maybe to harmony, to eat many kinds of food is more important to keep our health. It is general ideas. So we need to care much here about the health and about the economics. Even in this society, totally developed society in our platform, agriculture is not so much succeed about the business models. How are we the population, as population of young youths are moved from countryside to the urban areas to seek a lot of, to seek their interesting works in the working places. So in this developed, even especially developed societies, agriculture is no more important, effective to be a business model, not to succeed. So to take these motions, everyone become vegetarians. It is not cause, it is not improve to the economic effect improving. So we need to compare to these topics we succeed to prioritize how we respect the preferences about the children as human beings. They have own characteristics. Even they are not mature, of course, even they are not mature, it is more to be respected to the children to grow up, to improve their characteristics because, based on the education of the parents. Parents, even they try to encourage, only just to say encourage, they ought to focus, they ought to force the children to be a vegetarian, some kinds of preferences. Children must be to take kind of certain preferences. We totally succeed to explain the features encourages based on the very strong pressure influenced upon by the parents. We need to hesitate. We can succeed to explain why we should not take these motions about the preferences features of these kinds of topics. We totally explain in detail about the importance of the freedom of choices about the children who must survive in this developed, serious society. So our side is with. Thank you.
Right, I will reply for the remark. I invite government to reply to conclude the round.
I'm a little bit regretful because oppositions I didn't take my POIs. So, so first thing I'm going to say is they're saying that we're not saying we will limit their children's preferences, but we'll give another option to children to think about better way of living. So I like I said before, parents will encourage children to be, like I said, be selective vegetarian. We will not say you can never eat meat. You can only eat vegetable. We will not say that again. I'll say that, and parents will encourage the children to be selective vegetarian, like I said before. And and I want to ask one question to opposition side. They said children's preferences is very important. Why? Let's think about that. Who can say preference is more important? Because children is vulnerable and they don't really recognize which is more important or which is more important. So let's suppose if you are a parent and your children, Daddy, I'm gonna eat sweets. I don't want to eat like vegetable. Then can you say, okay, sweetheart, you can eat whatever you want. You kind of say like the way because you're parents. As a parent, you have to teach the kids in a right way. You cannot say that like that. You cannot say it like that way. So that kind of prioritizing preferences can spoil the children. In terms of parents' obligation, parents have to teach the children in a right way, and parents have obligation to give another way of life. And parents can provide another type of living, another type of diet. So we think like that way. And like I said in my first speech, we are aware of the importance of children's growth. So, like I said, we will give children another chance of having another diet. Well, we didn't say you have to only be vegetarian, like I said before. And also, opposition side, even parents are not vegetarian. How can parents say to your children, you have to be vegetarian? But although parents are not perfect, but still parents have obligation to give instruction to their children, because, like I said, parents have to lead the children in the right way. So, and lastly, I want to say our argument mechanism. So there is so everyone will agree that there is environmental issue. So the point is, high meat consumption leads to meat consumption requires a lot of land to raise cows or other animals. So this kind of deforestation leads to other environmental issues like deforestation and air polluted. And in Korea, many Koreans are suffering from fine dust, so which caused by air pollution. So we are agreeing with the fact that there is environmental issue. So and also like I defined before, the more country develop, there is more chance to eat meat. So as a government have to address this issue. So why parents? Why family? Because family is kind of basic unit to give instruction in the first place. So we thought family can be very effective educational institution. So there's another reason. So and parents also are very sincere and have affection to their children. So we thought family can be very effective. So for this reason, we propose this motion, and we are very proud to say that. Thank you.
I thank the reply speaker for government. I thank the speakers for the excellent round. Please shake hands. I know it's a bit cold, so go to the stores or come back. But before that, it would be great if you could write your names on this. So shake hands and write your name here. So bring your pen. Friends, you're no longer enemies. Please write your name.
Oh, it's good to see you again. Yeah.
バラエティあ
あ、違う。
いや Y でよかったんだけど俺 Y だから
あ
ピンだけ漢字で書いて
漢字で読めそう。BPM。上田やってあるんで、セットで来るのかと思いきや、単純に名前が書いたとかへっていう。
あれまだ僕の名前書かれて
今回は単位なしということで。
いやいやいやいやいや
もうクレジットするのよろしくね。
Thank you. Please read out loud. Let's start discussing in about 2 minutes. Great. Can we start talking?
Okay.
Could you just tell me your book and a brief reasons as to why you read that book?
So, in general, I vote for opposition side. So, I guess there are two main, maybe three, but maybe two main clash in this debate. The first is obviously the environmental issues, that the meat consumption is really good or not, and slightly minor clash about if the parents have to take obligation as citizens. Then second is pretty obvious, is the preference points, whether on this preference point there are two minor points that if the parents have the right to deprive or easily the choice of the children, and the second, like that's like what is this kind of influence will put on the children's will, and like what will children feel, and actually what is the influence of the children's health? So on the environmental points, though the government bring out many points, such as the meat consumption is bad in terms of, for example, like greenhouse emission, deforestation, and so forth. But as the opposition side points out a lot, like for example, there are alternative and other more severe stuff to be solved, and we shouldn't put the burden on the children. That might be other alternative way, maybe more effective in solving this problem. So I thought, even though the government side bring out, like, I understand like meat consumption, like meat production is pretty bad, but at the same time I can't put same weight as opposition side's point that mentioned about why it's effective, why we have to let the children, why not let just this generation, and why the alternative problem might be even more severe than the problem they want to solve. And the second about the personal preference is like the parents' rights. At first I was pretty struggling on this point, because I actually don't know which side should give, but at the end I guess on this point I slightly goes to the government side, because no matter what kind of thing going, no matter like opposition sides bring out, the parents shouldn't enforce their idea on the children, but the points that such as religious and such as the reply talking about the parents to some extent have the obligation to tell children what is their parents think is good for their children. So on this point I give to slightly view government. But second point about the children's will, to be honest, I get more clear idea from the opposition side about because even though the government say the parents have it's the first institution, for example, and have the right to influence the children, but afterwards the impact is the opposition side. It's mainly for example, if the parents deprive the choice, if it's against the children's will, the children will feel unhappy, and when the children grow up, it might have some backlash that make the children quite sad in the future. And second about the health, the government talking about meat consumption is for example lead to the obesity, leads to the children's unhealthy lifestyle, but they didn't mention that why necessary have to be meat consumption is the only cause or the most impacted cause that lead to the children's unhealthy lifestyle. And also the opposition side, even on the point that they admit maybe the meat consumption is quite bad, but they also bring out that unless they prove this is the most impactful cause that causes the children's unhealthy lifestyle, maybe the combined different kind of diet is the most healthy way to improve the children's health. So based on all these points, I think on the major classes that it's the opposition side take this debate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about you?
I voted for the government bench. So the reason is the main crush was the same, but internal environmental issue. As the opposition has claimed, this efficiency can be very small, but as the government web has shown, say even if this efficiency is small, they at least decrease the burden on the environment. So this can be the benefit, and also on this point of efficiency, even the alternative do exist. They didn't see alternatives way is more efficient way. They just say, hey, there is new technology to restrict the CO2 gas. And so on this point, certainly the government have showed surely the way surely to decrease the burn to the burn. And on the second point of the individual preference, on this point, I could not catch up the specific reason why in this motion the preference is very important from the opposition bench. So opposition bench. So so just what they claimed was the freedom of choice for even if they were children should be respected. On the contrary, the government bench have showed the obligation to collect their habit for to get health to supply in the society correctly. So I think the government on this two main crashes, the government showed the way.
Could you repeat that second clash again? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
So in terms of preference, the opposition, I think they couldn't show the specific reason, especially in this motion. So generally, I understand the freedom of choice for children can be a good thing, but this cannot for even for the argumentation of the parents' obligation to correct the habit of the children.
Okay. Thank you. I'm pretty sure both of you are anxious. I voted for opposition. I feel it was relatively close. So, but I think for me, I felt that government, yes, they are able to have some at least environmental benefits. In that respect, I agree with you. I think there will be some level of environmental benefit. But my question was, how big is that environmental benefit ultimately? Especially given the alternatives that they said. I was unsure as to the level of impact that necessary gives. As opposed to that, I was, even if you're able to give some environmental benefit, my next question was, why to children? Why can we come with a cost of coercion and also with some scapegoating of responsibility pushing only to this person? My question was, well, that's quite tangible and very intuitive. And my question was, given that there may be some environmental benefits, yes, but given that the cost comes with coercion and also escaping responsibility, I felt that was not necessarily worth the cost. So that I felt slight reason for opposition. I also did not necessarily get the identity or preference point. That was interesting, but I was like, so what in both ways? So like, even if they proved it was preference, I was like, so what? Or so I was not sure. But I think I can't see voting for government too, because I think debate got clearer in DLO when she came up and talked about the this is unfair, you're only voting to children. I was like, sure, that's fair. Also, government said, well, it's no reason to negate future responsibility. That was fair too, but I was like, well, still you're pushing more burden on the next generation. I think that part was the nuance of DLO. And although government was able to say this is parental responsibility too, it don't necessarily go to wide extent to children's responsibility. So I felt in that respect, it was more on principle case that opposition was able to win. Because I think the problem with the opposition was they didn't necessarily prove the harm to children, except coercion. That's problematic too, but still, I felt weighing that, it's like it goes top. You could change vote, you don't have to, for both of you. I think it's nice to just keep it as 2 months split to traders too. Until DPM I was leaning more for government. When I heard DLO, I was like maybe opposition. So its margin is very close. Let's just do the scoring and go to feedbacks. Let's go with PM. What would you? I was thinking about 74, 75. What do you?
Because I set my criteria at 77.
I think that's a bit too high. I think based on my understanding. Let's go with I say 70.
As it is 75.
Okay, sure. I'll go 75. Yeah, I think that may be good.
Is it
For-
77?
For LO, I think it's a bit lower than PM. I think it's like 74.
Yeah.
Ah, yes, 74.
Yeah, agree.
DPM. I think this is about the same as LO, in my opinion. So 74.
Yeah. 17.
What do you think?
I think the DPM would be better than PM.
Really? In which respect? Because I wasn't convinced about the parents' obligation. That's what at best generic to obligation of citizens without no logic. The fact about eating habit of Australia, that was repeating the example rather than an argumentation. The final part about salt and oil was like, well, it really depends on how you cook some meat, unless you talk completely about it. So I wasn't really convinced. As opposed to PM talking about the general standard of the problem and family being the first educational institution.
Okay.
More complete. DLO, I think she deserves the highest.
I give 79.
Oh, I see. What would you give?
I gave 75.
Let's go with 77 or 6.
I think she change the protocol.
True. I'm not too sure of what it's. If it's possible, I would give 76.5. My question is whether it should be 76 or 77. My problem with her was, but I think her rebuttal was okay. You know, I'm not too sure about 77. If it's okay, if I would rather go with 76.
Okay.
Government web. I unfortunately think about 73 or 74. I think at the best it's the same as DPM. I would say even lower if I could be. What do you think?
Just a moment.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's impacted 73. Opposition whip. I'm thinking about 75.
Yeah. 75.
25, 74. Opposition reply. So we have to half it. So it's 74 divided by 2 is 37. Yeah. Government reply. I think she was better in
Yeah.
terms of reply. So 37.5. Yeah, sure. So the total was 2.5. could you check the government stuff actually?
Oh, wait, so 70?
Yeah, could you add this up?
Okay, no
She
problem.
has could you adapt the opposition? Okay. For just in case. My math is, okay. I'm right? Good. Okay, I have good math. Thank you. I agree. Let's see what's in it. Please come in. My room, come in.
나 여기 말 아니구나.
Right, thank you for giving us time. We felt that we should be extra careful when it comes to decisions. So thank you for giving us time. We had to discuss whether or not our verdict is something that's fair. So thank you very much for waiting in the cold air. I hope we became closer friends. I hope. Yes, I'll first give you some general comments as to how we saw the debate. Secondly, the vote and how we reach the vote, and some comments afterwards if people will wish. So firstly, thank you very much for a good debate. We felt it was an interesting round. And I liked how all teams did try to do their best effort in time to what they learned probably this morning. It was quite, I was unfortunately not present at the lecture, but I saw the notes and I'm pretty sure your facts and your inputs that came was very interesting and convincing. So I've seen a similar motion somewhere before, not here obviously. But compared to that, I thought this quality was much better, probably because of the knowledge that backed it up, and the ideas were very, very strong, so I really liked it. The second thing that I liked for both teams was I was able to picturize how, whether it be a damage of the environment, or how the house would look like, or the family would look like. I think that's very important, especially for instance, when you're talking about, for instance, the environment is just something very far away. It's very important to visualize harm. So that was a very good job for government. For opposition, and also to a certain extent government as well, it's very important to analyze how family pressure or the dynamics with necessary work between parents and children. Government tried to argue that it was their educational institution, I love that word, where opposition said it's more going to lead to power imbalance, therefore coercion, and that was very powerful too. So like, it's very difficult to imagine both in very micro-specific levels, and also something looking very, very far away. So I think also very challenging, and expert debaters, if there's expert debaters, professional debaters, if there are one, also struggle too. So I think having that is very great strength, and I can't believe that this came out in such a very short period of time. So excellent job for both of you. So you should be proud of yourself. So yeah, I could end here, but I'm sure you're conscious of vote. Before I go into vote, one other thing I should be adding is, at the same time I felt this was a very, very close round. I think the vote would be different depending on how a person perceives. And I think the reason being is because in a good debate like this, in a close debate like this, both teams' options are plausible. Like, I can agree with government saying this is a solution to health and the environment. I agree. At the same time, I agree with opposition saying that this may be de facto coercion of parent-children too. So my advice next round, because even if you lose this round, you still have the possibility to get the third prize, so do aim for it, is to say, to think of the strongest case that your side has and the strong case that opposition has. The tactic is leverage what's strong at the most. So irrespective of any rebuttals that could be coming from any of the sides, there's something that will be completely left for either team. For government, I felt that would be environment, because when you talk about health, opposition could argue about, well, eating meat is sometimes beneficial too, so it could be offset. But opposition cannot necessarily rebut to the environment case as strong. All they can do is mitigatory, say there's other options too. Because there is a link of contribution between consumption of meat versus environment damage for sure. No one can rebut to that. So that's probably your biggest strength. So if I were outside government, I would spend much more time on that. That there is a heavy contributing link between consumption and environmental damage. And irrespective of other options, this won't change. I would even go further, say, the source of demand will necessarily create the supply in the first place. That's why the supply will not necessarily change, because company has always profit incentive to cater to the demand. That's why cutting the demand itself is a source to cut the source of supply, therefore this will be effective, irrespective of other factory automation and whatnot. You could also argue that doing this in housing, in lifestyle, is probably the last option available right now on the table, because it's easy to limit corporate rights. It's very easy to limit states' rights. It's difficult to limit people's right in private housing. That's why you need to go in there as a core source. So if I frame that way, I will be much more easier to convince on your argument. I think the similar thing can go on opposition too. Opposition's strongest case probably is not about sense of identity or not, because the government could easily say there's heavy connection with identity too, although they don't necessarily tie it to that extent. I think the strongest case probably is a fact of coercion. So do go far on the fact of coercion. So because government did say on their model 2 of encouragement is going to happen, you say no matter what encouragement you say, there will be coercion. And you should go on to say why is coercion problematic? Because you would be limiting the fact of age of 0 to 20 for a very long period of time. Also, you could change the future. You could also say the perception of vegetarian is still very, unfortunately, stigmatized. It's relatively very minority. So, especially when social life is more things like accessibility, things like eating meat together, the culture is there. You have to have your own isolation itself. In an exercisation of eating food, which is very fundamental, very social, will be very damaging for children. So leverage that much more on that. Or else, like, it's very difficult. And then you could also argue things like, and I think the fact of the intergenerational responsibility was also very strong too. I think saying that you should be more tough on saying the government saying the reason why parents or society at large should be taking responsibility is because that is a more bigger contributing factor to the environment. Although it depends on pieces for there, I don't think it was there to the extent. Then you should say pushing that only to children de facto is more problematic. And even if not only to children, given the vulnerability of children, given this immense pressure, and parents being hypocritic about it, themselves eating meat, enjoying meat, is probably very damaging to children. So that's what I would do. So that is leveraging the strongest case. Then, given that, I think there are strongest cases on both sides. Next thing as a strategy, I think Peter sort of went through this yesterday, is to try to beat that strongest case. So what I would do in government is say, if that coercion happens, you say, obviously first response, as you said, coercion will not happen. But you can be tough and say, even if coercion happens, that's fine. Given that the urgency of the problem, it may be worth it. You could say it's only because when more people do it, it just becomes normal. So all the harms they talk about is relatively transitional harm, meaning that it could happen there. But the problem is because the mere fact vegetarians are minorities. If the number increases, probably the price would be much more decreased. The stigma would be alleviated. So all the harms they say about coercion would not necessarily be much more problematic. That could be a strong case for your side. For your case, environment would be left no matter what. So I think you should be very tough to say the level of contribution to environment is much more minute compared to other acts that's in the society. I think it was interesting for you to say things like factories or parents. That was good. You should say why factories or parents are much more pernicious compared to children. Because obviously parents comprise, I don't know, 60 or 78% of the population. Factories emit much more carbon dioxide than that of crops, obviously, right? So given the comparison, I think the responsibility is proportionate to the amount that they emit. Then I think your argument becomes much more stronger. So yes, I agree if there is environmental link, but that's in proportion to the extent that children is able to take responsibility. That's how I would run. So yeah, those are some strategies that I would have in mind. Based on that, I know I'm running out of time, so and reasons. We had a split vote, and I myself felt this was very close. Ultimately, in a 2-1 split, I voted for opposition. Let me give you the reasons. I have 2 questions. First, would there harm that government talk about would be there? Meaning that are you guys able to solve environmental damages or health threats?
Akira, we're behind schedule,
yes,
so can you wrap it up in
yes,
about 2 or 3 minutes?
Yes,
okay, great.
The second question was, even if those harms exist, can the children's autonomy or freedom of choice be compromised? My first question's answer was, to put it simply, I felt the environmental harm and health harm. I guess there are some harms, meaning that being vegetarian is more environmentally unfriendly, it's more healthily unfriendly. Although the health part I felt it was more of a question was unsure because opposition also argued it's a good source of protein and vitamins, so I was like, maybe yeah. But I think your factor environment was very strong there. Although it was mitigated by WIP, for example, say there alternative 2, but I felt the link between vegetarianism and environmental damage was there. But I felt it was weakened significantly when they said, well, there are other options available too. So I was like, well, this is a global threat. There's a contributing link. But my question was, how significant is a link? Maybe there's there. So I was like, maybe some environmental benefits would materialize. So it came more to second question of children's freedom of choice. I felt in short that children's choice would be damaged. I was more convinced that children have to be coerced for about 20 years down the time, saying that parents are the ones, without being logically, so children have to believe in it. So I was like, sure, that would happen. Also, government's case was about your own encouraging it. I wasn't unsure about the fact how de facto parent encouragement would happen. If you could say things like, well, if they look at children, say children are suffering, parents are not going to say, oh, you should keep eating vegetables. Usually, there's probably that discussions and mitigatory effects that happen because they are the closed actor. I would be convinced. But I don't think that kind of analysis was there. I thought you just asserted that there was encouragement, so I was more convinced on coercion. Given that, I felt that didn't in zero side opposition, where you guys talk about how this is unfair, you were putting more burden on children as opposed to parents. I thought that framing was very clear, very strong when you say, although parents are also responsible, you're imposing it to children. Also, Deacon's argument about parents also have to serve as a duty as citizens, at best I think that's affirmed the duty of parents, not necessarily duty of children. Although government tried to say this, you cannot deny the intergenerational responsibility. I think the nuance that came from opposition was parents, although parents are the main cause of it, and they have less burden but only pushing to children, I felt that sounded unfair. I think the unfairness was, I think, the nuance that opposition necessarily taught. Although I wasn't sure about harm after coercion, meaning that you should be much more elaborated on that. When I weighed again some environmental benefits versus coercion, which is unfair, I felt the coercion, which was unfair, was more elaborated to a certain extent, where we were able to sympathize compared to the dynamics of the two parents. We were in a very close margin. I felt the opposition was better. So that's how I reached the verdict. I think I said most of my comments already. Government, I think if you were to go to the environment... Okay,
Kara, now...
one more minute.
Now it's like the ad score is going to put you in a bin room next round if you don't finish with it.
One minute. So that's one thing. Another line that I felt that was strong for your case, especially when it came of reply, was showing the second option. If you were to say that, I think you should say that running to non-vegetarians is a very easy option for children because of the culture, because of the taste. I think the parents therefore should be guardian to say at least second option. If it's framed that way, I think it would be better because that way I think you can kill most of the argument of opposition. Or you should be tough and say, bite the bullet and say, we have to solve environmental damage, which was your solution too. That's fine too. So we, in that case, explain more on how it's environmentally impactful. For opposition, I think what's wrong for you to talk about rhetoric of children's choice. Explain more on why the choice being coerced is bad. Either saying that that will be limiting children's option too much, or the fact that you'll be stigmatized, you'll be economically more deprived, the fact that you're able to eat what you want, and the culture, identity which is associated is tremendously damaging. Be more tough on that. And even if you say, you should also say that the collective, some level of collective benefit for society versus individual right. Like you should say individual should not be used for the sake of social benefit. Because it's very easy and intuitive to say collective benefit is zero means. So be tough on the strongest part that you have. Otherwise, again, it was a good round. Definitely it was a very close round as well. Ultimately, because we had 3D, we was 2-1 split. But if you have 5 judges, maybe the reason is different. So best of luck to the future rounds. And apologies for going over time. Have a break. Good luck.
Sorry for being late. Do you like have a penalties? Did I steal anything from you? That's all right.
山が2つ、おこが1つ、あと1チームかな。
Ballots? May I have the ballot, please?
A4 の紙持ってない？ A4 の紙あげても A4 でしょ。あと2枚誰か A4。
Exciting journey.
側に入れました。あ、私が最初割れてそのまま見て。まあ私のあれ。確かになんかちょっとありましたね。完全しないでよ。なんかじゃまあ。オリンピックはあれは絶対に間違ってたの。割と最初はどうしようやってました。あれちょっとやりすぎたと思って。
Round 2 matchups.
Judges stay behind for the decision. And the good news for many of you is if you win, there's a possibility that if you win once, you get to be second prize.
Oh, even champion. Oh no, there will be one team that wins twice, for sure.
So good luck.
Yeah, for the second place team could be 2 wins, could be 1 win,
Yes.
nobody knows.
So if you win,
So everybody's still alive in the tournament, at least for second place.
so good luck.
Is everybody here? Is there anybody whose teammates are missing? Okay. Give her like 2 minutes. If she's not back in 2 minutes. Thank you. Nobody's promotion anyway. Alright. Anna is back. Okay, everybody's here then? Everybody's here. Okay, good. So, ready for the motion? Hi, David. Okay, good. If you have any questions, ask Akira.
So basically, the poor communities, whether it be defined or that government, would have more votes when they vote. So maybe they may have to vote.
So, you mean like, you're giving more,
For example, if they go to ballot box or can political voting, they have 2 votes.
when the rich
For
has like
example.
1.
Yeah, whether other people get 1.
Other questions?
Yes. So what I said was 1 equal. So like national election votes merely 1 equal.
Okay, one more question.
So we can define vote as like anything not limited to just like presidential election or.
Yes. But we assume it's something related to politics.
Okay, so it's almost 3:30, debate starts at 4 o'clock. And everybody be back here by 5 o'clock. I judged team 3 on it. So 8 and 5. 8 and 5 is good. So we can keep the same panels together, or we can rotate panels around the middle. So. There should be, I mean, there are going to be 2 rooms that are okay for everything, because everybody only does 2 teams. And there are 2 rooms that people already use teams.
Which room did you touch? I got 5 teams. Okay, so you can talk to me.
So you're and which teams did you judge? 7 teams.
So not
okay, so who can be 6-1?
Or
you can mix. Yeah. Mix and
yeah, so who's that? Could be going on something. That's one solution. Or does anyone want to chair? Among especially for panelists. Who would like to try? Everyone's silent.
I know Haruka's been a chair many times.
Okay.
He's good at it. The other people are not so sure. I don't know. Maybe not. Every chair.
Situation is injustice. I don't know, like I chaired for once.
Do you want to do it again? Make Haruka do it.
I want to make one of these ones.
Do you want to make it interesting?
I want to make it interesting. maybe you should have just simply 2 judges for each.
어, 카도사 자치.
Oh well, you judged one anyway, so you can't have a complete mix.
But this all over
We can't. There are not enough teams.
this all over is conceived.
True. So I guess we should focus more on mix. So how we got just with apple, so it's being
Me and Junya and you and oh right, you judge it. Yeah, so that
no, that's better. Yeah, I think we're mixing.
you and that. There we go.
This looks good.
Yeah.
So Terry gets 2 votes.
It's necessary. Or 1.01 votes.
Maybe.
That means chairs are 4, right? If the motion passes, but if the motion fails, chairs are the next one.
the motion suggests. They have no choice but to vote for daily life. Is that they suggest?